Well, a massive cyber security breach at Origin Energy this week has sparked new concerns about just how easy it is for hackers to get your details and use them against you.
Yeah, Origin appears to have settled with the hacker, but experts are warning that, well, it doesn't take much for criminals to use leaked information in a wave of scams, which are then powered, unfortunately, by the good old AI. And for more on this morning, we're joined by Yasmin London, a former police officer and cybersecurity expert. Morning to you, Yasmin. Look, AI, it is changing everything, but particularly with scams. So how do we deal with this? Because just to clarify, with the Origin case, it's the fact that there's sort of AI scammers piggybacking on it and pretending to be, say, you know, someone and calling people up. So that's what we're sort of concerned with. Is that correct?
Yeah, look, in many ways we've got to think about AI as superpowering existing scams and existing ways that people are being manipulated. It's sort of increasing the volume and the scale and the personalisation. So they're still using social engineering tactics, so manipulating the human behind the screen, their vulnerabilities, our emotions like our fears, our greed sometimes, our need to try and get things done quickly. So that sense of urgency is often something that they'll manipulate. And, you know, it can be really, really difficult to detect fact from fiction a lot of the time. So we've got to be really, really vigilant.
Hackers don't really need that much information to launch these convincing attacks, do they, Yaz? And in fact, I think with this one, this alleged hacker here has described it as having the security of a school project at one point.
That was a little bit of an insult, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Look, they don't need a lot of information, and that's what we've got to really understand. You know, it's sort of like a puzzle, I guess, if you can think about it that way, our personal information. One piece on its own, you know, a date of birth or a first name or a last name doesn't do a lot. But when we have all of those little pieces put together, it tells a really big picture about our lives. And a lot of the time we've got to think about the amount of information that we're voluntarily putting out there as well through things like social media. And when that's all brought together, the sophistication of deepfake technology and voice cloning technology now makes it really, really easy to manipulate people. I was thinking recently about the Hong Kong businessman who last year transferred $25 million over, you know, it was because of a deepfake video call he was on where he was the only real person on that call. So it can happen to everyone, and we've got to think about ways that we can verify whether something is true or whether it's questionable.
Just quickly, how do we protect ourselves then if we do feel our data is out there and potentially breached? Look,
there's a great website that people can go to firstly to think about, you know, if they're concerned about being breached, and it's called Have I Been Pawned, and it's PWNED. It will say if there's passwords that have been compromised and other information. Not, you know, 100% factual, but a really good start. Making sure that we're going to platforms like ScamWatch to know what risks are out there. And then sometimes it's about really working the basics, making sure that we've got good password hygiene, we're using two-factor authentication, and we have, you know, some physical world tests as well, like a family safe word or something along those lines too.
Because there's a lot of parents getting caught up in those as well, isn't it? Because they're hearing these phone calls from their kids.
I just got one this week. Hey, Mum, I haven't got my phone.
I was just about to, that's exactly it. And having a family safe word, you know, it might seem really rudimentary, but sometimes that's a really good way to get around it.
Back to basics.
Exactly.
Thanks, Yaz.
Yasmin.